Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. My name is Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, comedian, filmmaker, lion tamer.
Whoa! Okay.
Do you have a lion? I'll tame it.
No. Why would I have a lion?
Because you have long hair and no one can predict what's going to happen next with you.
That relates to lions?
I'm just saying, if I can't predict what's going to happen next with you.
I might have a lion,
exactly.
or I might
a samurai sword.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Why not?
Could
I
be
have
any
neither
of
of those things, but
when I was in Kingman, Arizona, once I was driving, through Kingman, and there's a gas station. If you don't know about Kingman, it's like kind of like the corridor to either Las Vegas or Phoenix. If you're going to one of those places, you stop in Kingman and then you go on a different highway to get to
I can't wait to find out where this is going.
And so we stopped at this convenience store to get gas. And at the convenience store in Kingman, there was a whole section of samurai swords.
Oh, wow.
And,
I thought you were going to say there was a lion.
No, but either way, there's a lot of meth in Kingman.
I bet. And meth and samurai swords go really well together.
Yeah, and lions too.
Yeah,
so.
all of it. Anyway, we are at the end of our season on the films of 1989. We talked about 13 films that we picked out, but there were a lot of other potential options. So as we've done in previous seasons, we've got a little epilogue here talking about other possible films we could have covered.
But before we do, let's take a look back. Roll the montage.
Yes. No, we don't have a montage.
Oh, okay.
No montage, but I should say we talked about 14 movies because we started the season with a special Christmas episode on National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And we didn't really talk about any other options because how many Christmas movies are there in a given year? But there was one other like sort of beloved Christmas movie in 1989, Prancer. Have you seen this?
No, but hey, it gives us another option for next year. Kids will keep putting out the Christmas specials.
Christmas. And I wanted to also mention, I don't think I brought this up when we were coming up with a Christmas episode, but the unbelievably terrible cult classic Elves is also, which is a Christmas horror movie, is also from 1989. And really, if we ever get to a point, with picks, if we're thinking of like, I'm going to make these guys watch this movie, I have endured Elves and really inflicting it on others.
Well, hey. Josh, did you ever see Prancer?
I haven't seen Prancer, but I've seen Elves.
But here's the other connection is we just got done with our audience choice, Lethal Weapon 2. And the big argument around the original Lethal Weapon is it a Christmas movie? The same way people ask, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
That's true. So I guess we could have done Lethal Weapon. Well, not because it was not from 1989.
Right.
But Lethal Weapon 2, not a Christmas movie, definitely.
Not even a July 4th movie or
no holidays in that movie at all.
No reference to Arbor Day.
No.
Secretary's Day.
No. You didn't have any. Were there any other Christmas movies that we talked about?
We really looked hard. We couldn't. I don't think we.
I mean, we picked the right one, obviously.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Sorry, Prancer fans.
Hey, man. John Hughes. You know I love John Hughes.
You do. So our box office champion was Batman. And as we've mentioned a couple times, that was the number one movie in North America. The number one movie worldwide and number two in North America was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Some other big box office movies were Back to the Future Part 2, Look Who's Talking, which I feel like has really been consigned to the dust heap of pop culture.
And people always say that Travolta's comeback wasn't until 94, which we talked about. And
we did.
Yes, in season 1.
Uh-huh.
Roll the clip with Pulp Fiction. But hey, man, he had a number one huge hit here in 89 with Bruce Willis and was Kirstie Alley.
It was Kirstie Alley and John Travolta were the on-screen people and Bruce Willis as the voice of the baby.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis and Travolta teaming up pre-Pulp Fiction.
Amazing. That's amazing right there.
No, it is a terrible.
Hey, but Josh, also, Last Crusade, that was part of our audience choice pick. So Last Crusade had a lot of inroads to this season.
It did, and yet we didn't end up covering it.
And Lethal Weapon 2, number 3, as we said in the last episode, highest grosser in North America, number 6 worldwide.
Yes, and number 5, a movie that comes up in multiple categories here, number 5 worldwide was Dead Poets Society, which
Oscar nominee.
It is indeed, and I still haven't ever seen.
Yeah, you should maybe watch it.
Yeah, maybe someday. So the first feature.
So many choices.
There was some interesting. I don't know what else you came up with. We talked about Cameron Crowe's Say Anything. And the one suggestion that I saw that you had made was Todd Solondz' film, which I had never heard of.
Yeah, Fear, Anxiety, and Depression. Still don't know much about it, but I think it would be worth looking into.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where Welcome to the Dollhouse was not his first movie, but is really the first one that people found out about. So I'm not sure kind of what he was doing before that, really.
And what else did you guys have for suggestions?
Well, I mean, I know there were a couple others that we did talk about in other categories. We mentioned Sex Lies, and Videotape, and Roger and Me. Those were both first features. I noted down Christopher Guest's The Big Picture.
Yeah.
My Left Foot, which was an Oscar nominee. That's Jim Sheridan's first film. Kenneth Branagh's Henry V.
Oscar winner for Best Actor.
That's true. I'm a nominee for Best Picture. And then another movie that I'm not that aware of where the director went on to do bigger things was Jane Campion's Sweetie, which was also a movie that played at Cannes.
Yeah, I also had on there, because this is 89 and he was such a big presence in the 90s. And I do want to talk about him one of these seasons. John Dahl's Kill Me Again.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Greengrass did Resurrected in 89.
I don't know that one at all.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids by Joe Johnston.
Joe Johnston has actually been a relatively influential director somehow.
I think so. And that's a fun movie. I watched it again with my daughter recently. It's good. And then the last one is, and I don't really know what to make of this because Slacker is Linklater's first movie, right?
No. He made, what is it called? It's Impossible to Learn How. It's like a super low budget, maybe even a student film, but it is a feature.
It happened in 89.
Oh,
so that would have been a good one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's another one, I think, like the Todd Solondz movie where everyone knows a different movie as like the first.
Yeah, I thought it was Slacker, but that was the breakout. And it's Impossible to Learn How to Plow by Reading Books. 89.
Yeah, I mean, it was a movie that he made. I think he's also the star of it, that he just kind of made on his own. But it is a feature film.
He's also in Slacker.
Yes.
Dave, what did you have anything or no?
No, I had Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but
I didn't. I never would have thought of that. But that's.
I know Dave. By the way, we're so proud of little Davey growing up, watching some of the movies this season.
Yeah, he watched at least 4 movies that we talked about this season.
Sounds about right.
So he'll be chiming in, and look at what happens when you eat all rice and no beans.
Yeah. So the Palme d'Or winner at the Cannes Film Festival that we talked about was Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which was also his first feature. Some of the other films that were at Cannes, notable films that year, include Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, Jim Jarmusch's Mystery Train, Jane Campion's Sweetie, as I mentioned, Cinema Paradiso, which is, I know, Jason is a fan of, Patrice Leconte, Monsieur Here, which I like Patrice Leconte, even though he's not as well known, and Alejandro Jodorowsky's Santa Sangre, which probably is totally insane, as his movies usually are.
I think the biggest omission to the season, the place where we failed, Josh, and we got to be critical of ourselves.
Sure.
We Do the Right Thing is such an important movie of this year, and it's such a great movie. I highly recommend people watch it. It's still relevant to this day. So imagine what it was like when it came out, now 31 years ago.
I almost feel like you guys should do like a bonus episode for like my Patreon or something.
All
like
3 of the Patreons could hear that episode.
Do you have a Patreon going now?
Yeah.
All right, I'm down if you're down, Josh. I haven't seen it in so long. I love that movie.
Yeah, I've seen it more recently, but I mean, I think that and Indiana Jones, I mean, obviously that isn't as culturally important, but that movie came up so much as like a possibility and that we didn't end up getting to.
I think, Dave, you might be onto something.
Big movies.
Right. We've talked about them in so many other episodes.
Right. I mean, this is the thing about this and why we do this epilogue is because there's always so many movies. We could just go on and on with any of these years.
You're right. You're right. But I do think like if you were writing, you'd say like a historical look at 1989, Do the Right Thing is the movie that I think that and Sex Lies are probably the 2 that stand out more than any to me.
Yeah. I think you're right. Our flop that we talked about was The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Jason, I think you had suggested Cadillac Man starring Clint Eastwood as the possibility for that. Have you seen that?
No, thankfully.
We actually briefly mentioned We're No Angels, the comedy starring Robert De Niro and Sean Penn as criminals pretending to be priests.
That we should have done that at some point.
And that's one that I think Terry Gilliam complained that none of the people involved in that movie got, vilified for its failure, whereas he did for his failure in Munchausen.
Right. And, Sean Penn, we all love his comedy from
both
Fast Times. Though,
yeah. But I mean, I think both Sean Penn and Robert De Niro are definitely not people you think of as like funny guys pretending to be priests.
Right. Although Sean Penn, I got to say, in stuff like Hurly Burly, there's a random pick out.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
He can be really funny sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that movie was directed by Neil Jordan, also not someone who's known for making comedies.
Oh, man, we got to watch that.
Yeah.
Dave, put it on the Patreon.
There you go. And the other flop that I thought of was She-Devil, starring Roseanne Barr and Meryl Streep, which I've never seen, but I'm sure is also a ridiculous experience.
Yeah, it would have been a good one, but we learned a lot with Munchausen.
Yeah, I think it was interesting to talk about.
We grew as people.
As that's the goal of this podcast. Yeah. So did you have any other flop ideas?
I think you have a good list there.
Thank you. Our documentary pick was Roger and Me by Michael Moore. And there was no discussion of doing anything else.
Get out of here, every other documentary.
It is also his first feature. If we had thought of something else, For All Mankind, the documentary about the moon landing, which was the documentary audience winner and jury winner at Sundance that year and was also Oscar nominated and has come back in the conversation recently with Apollo 11. That probably would have been the other main choice. The Oscar winner for Best Documentary was Common Threads, Stories from the Quilt, which is a movie that I don't think anyone really talks about anymore.
Is it about the AIDS quilt?
It is indeed about the AIDS quilt, which was a very relevant topic in 1989, but I don't know if it...
Roger and Me, it's got to be.
Yes,
we
absolutely.
made the right choice.
I do have a fringe edition,
though.
though.
Please.
Depeche Mode 101.
Yes, I like it. So.
Fantastic documentary.
Is it just a concert movie? Or?
It's a concert and behind the scenes and on the tour and stuff like that.
Was it directed by someone interesting?
I think Anton Corbin.
Oh, okay. All right. He's somebody.
I asked Dave about Depeche Mode 101. I said, do you like it? And he said, I just can't get enough.
That's a great Depeche Mode joke there. Really
I thought it was
solid
good.
work.
So.
Yeah, Dave, recently there was another Depeche Mode documentary recently. Did you go see that?
Past year. Yeah, it was great.
All right.
I said, Dave, are you still going to make Depeche Mode jokes? And he said, never again. And I said, never again is what you swore the time before, Dave.
Okay. My pick was Heathers, which is my favorite movie of all time. So it was clearly what I was going to pick. And there weren't that many other possibilities in terms of things that I like as much. I mean, actually, because we talked about Batman, which is another absolute favorite of mine, and UHF, which ended up being Dave's pick, and that is another absolute favorite. The only other one that I thought of was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which I do love and is kind of a similar, goofy comedy pick. But other than that, I mean, Heathers is that if you just told me like pick a movie, that's my pick.
That's a different podcast.
Yes.
Welcome to Pick a Movie.
So that was my pick. Our foreign film was Pedro Almodovar's Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, which I think we were a bit disappointed in. And I know I had argued in favor of covering that.
Yeah.
Jason, you wanted us to talk about Cinema Paradiso, which you love, I guess. Are you a big fan of that one?
I liked it a lot, and it's a movie about movies and movie theater. So
yes,
I thought it would be relevant to our movie podcast, Pick a Movie. So
yes.
But there were a few others.
Yeah, there's other ones too. What other ones did you note down?
Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a crazy cult movie.
Tsukamoto. Kiki's Delivery Service by Miyazaki.
We talked about that one, yeah.
Yeah. John Woo the Killer. That would have probably been my pick if we had done one.
Over Cinema Paradiso?
No, probably Cinema Paradiso.
Okay.
But we like mixing it up.
You're just really in the tank for Cinema Paradiso.
Well, I think it was an important film and a very good movie.
Yeah.
And then I guess the cook, the thief, his wife, and her lover, right?
I mean, that's a movie in English, I believe.
But does it count as an international feature?
I mean, I think we're thinking of this in the way the Oscars do, which is a movie that's not
different
in English.
Language.
Yeah.
But wasn't that the movie that we talked about that also led to the NC-17?
Yes.
Rating,
We did talk about that.
That and was it Sex Lies or what was it?
No,
Was
it
a
was
different movie
something else. This
that
is
we did.
one of the movies.
You know your
Anyway,
movies, Josh. This is pick a movie after all.
yeah. Those were the other foreign films that I noted as potential. Another Hong Kong film, God of Gamblers, which launched a huge franchise there. That also stars Chow Yun-fat who also stars in The Killer. And I mentioned Patrice Lecomte's Monsieur here, which is a pretty well-regarded film, and I like that filmmaker. Jason, your pick.
My pick was Sex, Lies, and
No.
it was When Harry Met Sally, which I still regard as the greatest romantic comedy of all time.
What did you have any other potential picks?
I did. There were a few things that here were things that I wrote down. We had already mentioned Do the Right Thing, which could have been hit a number of categories. The one I was gonna pick was Uncle Buck, because we have been talking so much about John Hughes, and it's a great movie. And man, John Candy's so good, so talented. New York Stories came out in '89, which is a trilogy of short films with Scorsese, Woody Allen, and Coppola. And a young Kirsten Dunst in the Coppola one, if I remember.
All right.
The best one being the Scorsese one with a very angst-filled artist of Nick Nolte. That's the character he plays. Let's see. The Dream Team, Michael Keaton. Come on, that's a fun one.
I noted that you had suggested it as a cult classic as well. I had never heard of that movie.
Really?
I guess, yeah.
He plays like a mental patient that gets other mental patients out. That was a fun movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
And then I guess this could have gone as a cult classic too. Weekend at Bernie's was '89.
Do you actually like Weekend at Bernie's?
I don't know. I haven't watched it in that many years. It might have been something,
okay. All right.
Josh, you and I watched about 10 years ago, probably the Fabulous Baker Boys with the Bridges.
I don't think I've seen that. Did we watch
Really?
that? I don't
Yeah.
recall ever having seen it.
The Bridges brothers and
Michelle Pfeiffer. I know what it is. I didn't think I'd ever seen it.
Well,
did we watch it in our little film club or something?
I thought so, but
maybe we
watched
did.
it. It's good.
Yeah.
Then the two others, Drugstore Cowboy, which we talked about, Van Zandt.
Maybe is that the NC-17 one?
I think that might have been it. I don't
Yeah.
know. Dave, look it up. And The Little Mermaid came out in '89, didn't it?
It did. Is that a favorite of yours?
My daughter likes it.
Okay.
So, but
Scarlett's pick. Are we gonna have Scarlett's pick in our next
let's
season?
add it.
Little Mermaid does rule.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
All right.
But it would have been Uncle Buck, and then probably Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we've talked about John Hughes plenty. I've never seen Uncle Buck though.
We only talked about him in reference to
Christmas Vacation. Yeah.
So we haven't really.
And
talked about him as a
I guess I
director.
feel like he's come up a lot, but
Well, it was the '80s, man.
right.
He should come up a lot.
And I think he's coming up. We have something on the way, maybe in the future. The Sundance winner that we talked about was True Love, which was an interesting discovery for us. That I thought we were happy to check that movie out. That not a lot of people have heard of.
Yeah, that was great. If you're talking about like looking back at like one of the high points of Pick a Movie, the podcast.
Yeah, we picked that movie.
And it was really good.
Yeah.
I liked it. So
Elsewhere at Sundance, as I said, For All Mankind won the jury prize and the audience award for documentary. Sex, Lies, and Videotape did win the audience award. We, of course, talked about it related to Cannes. A movie called Pow Wow Highway won the Filmmakers Trophy, a road movie about Native Americans. Other films, notably, that were at Sundance that year include Christopher Guest's The Big Picture, Heathers, which of course we talked about, and Miracle Mile, which is a bit of a cult movie as well.
I don't know that movie.
With Matthew Modine, is about an impending nuclear holocaust, and it's like the last hour, I think, before it's about to happen.
Wasn't he in War Games also? He's all in the...
Maybe.
Yeah, he loves these nuclear holocaust films.
Yes.
All right.
He loves the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
Dave, you picked UHF. Did you have any other options?
Yeah.
Which also could have been our cult pick.
Or
Sure.
or our flop pick, or my own personal pick.
There
It
you
definitely
go.
had a lot of possibilities.
You mentioned Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That totally could have been on my list. I have two others, though. See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
The
Yeah.
Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder. I've
Yep.
never seen that.
Oh, great. And, well, I haven't seen it forever, but I loved it.
I loved it too back in the day. Those two were gold.
Not as celebrated, The Wizard, the
Whi-
Nintendo movie with Fred
which-
Savage.
Do you actually like that movie?
I don't remember, but
I-
I loved it as a kid.
I'm
and I
defending
almost
Dave
made
on
you
this
guys
one.
watch it. So-
I had that on my list of cult movies.
Yeah.
And I loved it when I was a kid too. And I still remember, when he gets to the tournament and Jimmy Woods.
Man.
I went to that tournament, by the way.
Oh my
Really?
I
God.
competed. I didn't
Wow.
do
Was
very
that
well.
was the
you were
introduction?
not the wizard?
I was not the wizard.
Was that the intro to
Sadly.
Super Mario 3, right?
Yes,
wasn't
that's
it
where they
wasn't
introduced the game.
the Power Glove also introduced in
I
that?
believe so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that movie in the theater, but I feel like even as a kid, I realized it was dumb.
Dave, put it on the Patreon list. I did have that on my cult class.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair to say it has a cult following, but it's bad. The Best Picture winner was Driving Miss Daisy. The other nominees for Best Picture that year, Born on the 4th of July, My Left Foot, Field of Dreams, and Dead Poets Society. The only one of those I've seen is Field of Dreams. Have you seen those, Jason?
Field of Dreams.
Okay, yeah. So, but other certainly, whether they're all great, but I can't say, but certainly movies that have, remained known. for
Another
those.
big Oscar. It might have won, or if it didn't win, it got a lot of nominations. Crimes and Misdemeanors. Woody Allen.
Oh yeah, I do like that
So,
movie.
yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah, cult-wise, there was a lot of possibilities. We chose Gleaming the Cube, and we've mentioned a few other
And
possibilities.
can we just say what a pick that was?
That was
A pick.
you picked. We said pick a movie.
And we picked.
We picked that movie, and it was a movie.
So it checked off all the boxes.
Yeah, it did. The Burbs, the Joe Dante film with Tom Hanks, I think was maybe one I had mentioned. Earth Girls Are Easy could have been a fun cult one. Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, which I've never seen, but people have a weird affinity for that movie.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Featuring Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer Terry Funk.
Wow. Well, if it has a pro wrestling connection, I'm surprised you weren't all over that.
Well, I mean, Christian Slater skateboarded in Gleaming the Cube, Josh. It was like
Okay.
pick six
How
of
can-
one, half
right,
dozen
how
of
can
the
you not?
other.
Yeah.
So.
Cyborg, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, directed by a Las Vegas resident, Albert Pune. And then you already mentioned Weekend at Bernie's and The Dream Team. Did you have other cult classics?
The Wizard. I mean,
Oh, right.
that was the list.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, The Wizard. Our audience choice winner was Lethal Weapon 2. It was up against Ghostbusters 2 and Back to the Future 2 in our blockbuster sequels matchup. And we did have a bunch of
We
discussion.
had a lot of good ideas, I thought, for that.
Yeah, various configurations of movies, which I think was a lot of things that we have talked about. Some like teen movies and
This is what we had. We had horror franchises running out of steam.
oh yeah, that was my call, which probably
Yeah.
would have been fun for me and not for you.
Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Those movies are all really bad.
Then we were going to have Teenagers Save the Day, aka Dude Adventures, which were 3 that we already mentioned: Gleaming the Cube, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Weekend at Bernie's. And then there was Save the Kids, which was Uncle Buck, The Wizard, and Lean on Me, which that would have been an interesting
I feel
one.
like we got a more consistent matchup with what we ended up with.
Family First, Parenthood, another good, very good comedy from 1989. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. We talked about Last Crusade, Indiana Jones, Uncle Buck. And then we had the major auteurs, which was Do the Right Thing from Spike Lee, Peter Weir, Dead Poets Society, Gus Van Sant, Drugstore Cowboys. So those were the lists. I think Blockbusters was the right choice.
Yeah,
You guys convinced me. You swayed me.
Right. And I think it's good for those. We get 3 movies that all have a chance of winning, that all seem kind of on the same level. And that was an interesting matchup for us. So that were all our categories. And then special shout out to JC from the Screen Fix podcast, who has tweeted us dozens of times about Turner and Hooch, which we definitely did not cover nor consider covering, but he really wanted us to.
I saw it in the theater. I'm going to spoil it right now if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Hooch dies.
Hooch dies?
And then
What
he
the
gets a
hell?
new dog, and it's like, man,
He
once
Hooch
Hooch dies,
too?
like, it's over for me, man.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like them.
Not
No.
cool. Have you seen that movie, Dave?
No, I've never seen.
I think
might
people would have
seen
been
it
happier if
back in the day.
Turner died.
Yeah,
And
that is so
Tom
true.
Hanks is
Right,
beloved.
yeah. I would honestly put money that maybe JC from Screen Fix has also not seen Turner
I don't
and
think he
Hooch.
has. Yeah.
When we initially posted about doing this season, we had a few other suggestions. My sister Brandy suggested Troop Beverly Hills with Shelley Long.
Yes. And I just saw Troop Zero on Amazon Prime, and it's a little,
Similar to Troop Beverly Hills?
yeah, but not really at all. No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
like the opposite, but the same.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've never seen Troop Beverly Hills. And we mentioned Dead Poet Society a bunch. Allison Duck had suggested that. Ryan Olbrich suggested Loverboy with Patrick Dempsey, I think. Is he a
Ooh.
pizza delivery guy in that
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
And he had also suggested Roadhouse. And then Greg Thilmont suggested a couple obscure things, starting with the movie Reuben and Ed, starring Crispin Glover, which was released in 1991. So good job there, Greg.
That's how obscure it was. It wasn't even released in that year.
He also suggested How to Get Ahead in Advertising, starring Richard E. Grant, which did come out in 1989. I had not heard of either of those movies.
What about Jeremy and Bo? Our
I was looking if they posted somewhere else. I didn't see it. Did you grab any other of our social media suggestions, Jason?
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
All right. Well, we're sorry to anybody who may have tweeted or Facebooked us and we missed it.
But we love them, and we're going to need your suggestions coming up on the new season.
We are. Do we want to say what our next season will be?
Yes. We are going back to one of the all-time great blockbuster years, perhaps in a galaxy far, far away.
What?
1977.
Yes.
None of us were born back then.
No, but movies still existed.
Somehow, some way, the movies were there. And
Yes.
we're going to talk about those films, Josh. I think you know what the box office champ was. And it's a little film called Star Wars.
Yes. So that will kick us off. And there's a lot of interesting films in that year, not just blockbusters, but all sorts of stuff. So
Should we name one or two that we might cover? No?
If you want to.
Well, I mean, I'm very excited for our documentary, Pumping Iron with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That would be one. And if we were going to name one other one.
Pick a movie, Jason. Pick a movie.
I'm going to pick Best Picture, Annie Hall, which is a freaking awesome movie.
Annie Hall is great. I'm looking forward to seeing Annie Hall again.
Yeah.
So, look for that in our next season premiere and follow us on the social media.
Follow us on the social media, guys. Look, if Dave can watch the movies, you can follow us on the social media. I'm Jason Harris Comedy on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm Jay Harris Comedy on Twitter. My website, work in progress, shall we say, goforjason.com. We're at awesomemovieyear.com and Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm at joshbellhateseverything.com, Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, and at Signal Bleed on Twitter. And listen to our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
You can find Piecing It Together wherever you listen to this podcast, and also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod.
So tune in next time for Star Wars.
Season 4.
Thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
And all points west.